to a lot of folks about our new SandStep sanitizer. And I'm taking advantage of a brief period where no one is here and there's very little going on. Although you might hear some stuff in the background as people are dealing with their booths and getting ready for the next wave. But I wanted to share some of the things that I've been showing about why we came up with SandStep Sanitizer. Now, part of the process here is taking a look at what is the leading national brand and why we didn't really like it that much to begin with. Honestly, sure, we can come out with our own version of this particular type of product, a rather high foaming acid sanitizer. But the fact of the matter is that we weren't happy with what we saw. And as a result of this, we wanted to make sure that we gave people what they really did want. And that took us a number of years to figure out in terms of how to do it. So what we have here is a solution made up with bottled water so that you can't accuse me of playing around with the water. This is our leading national brand, the stuff I just showed you. And this is our new SandStep. So the first thing that we're showing is about how the foam works. In this case, we're going to use one of our typical test methods of a foam shake cylinder. So here is ours. And here is theirs. Now everybody knows what kind of response we're going to get when I start shaking this cylinder. Basically, we're going to produce a nice big head of foam, like that. Now the problem with this foam is that that's where all your biocide is. The impurities in the solution are what's responsible for stabilizing this foam. So when you end up with a lot of foam like that, yeah, great, you're bringing a lot of biocide to bear with the surface. But then your solution, as it settles out, has less of a concentration than what you're really looking for. And then when you go to rinse, and you're left with all this biocide clinging to the sides of your equipment and not rinsing freely, then you're adding that into your beer. And personally, that's not something that I really put into my own recipe. Now in our case, when you shake it, of course, you do get foam. But what you get is a very unstable foam, which starts to break down as quickly as it's formed. And in fact, you can even use this with a Mark's keg washer or a similar CIP or clean in place type of system, and it will build foam to a certain extent and then will begin breaking as quickly as the new foam is being generated. Now the great thing about this is that now we know where our actives are. Yes, we've got the biocide present in the foam, but it's rapidly being released back into the solution, so you know that you've got a good concentration. And when you go and rinse, or rather just drain, you have nothing left behind. It drains freely, and you no longer have to worry about foam being in contact with your equipment or becoming a part of your beer. So the great thing about this now is that we are able to capitalize on some of the things that we put together to make that happen. And one of those things is related to water hardness. So the reason why we're able to use this and the technology behind it allows for a little bit of a delocalized charge. The delocalized charge is important to surfactant chemists because it actually brings us an ability to solubilize your biocidal solution. This is probably getting a bit more technical than what you're really looking for, but the bottom line is that this lack of foam and this free rinseability is what allows it to have a tolerance for water hardness. Now, as I mentioned, this is made up with a bottled solution, and to prevent cross-contamination, I measured 100 mils into this, and now I'm going to simply use eyeing it to measure it into the other so that I'm not using the same graduated cylinder. For demonstration purposes, I think I'm allowed a little leeway with accuracy. But basically, we've got the same amount of solution, looks like it. And what we're going to do is we're going to add some calcium chloride. Calcium chloride brings into the solution calcium ions, which is the primary component of water hardness. Now, going into the sand step solution, about 1.5 milliliters of the calcium chloride solution really doesn't have an impact. It remains clear. On the other hand, when we do this with the other solution, you begin to see a clouding effect. Now, that clouding effect goes back to that charge that I was talking about. The charge is locking on to the calcium, and it's causing the surfactant or the biocide to start to crystallize as it grabs a hold of that. So when you see this clouding, that means that your biocide is no longer available. It is locked into that water hardness. If we give this time, it's going to start to drop out of solution. You're going to end up with a lot of solids at the bottom. That's not doing anything for you. So when they say don't use a cloudy solution, what they're talking about is don't use a solution that doesn't have biocide available for use. In our case, we don't have that to worry about because we're not locking into that system. Now, in fact, I can add more and more and more, and you will see we still don't have a problem. So this is a great product for people to use in hard water areas. I hear a lot of people saying that they want to use RO water or softened water, and I say, why do you want to use your ingredient water for your process? Use the process water for the process. So these are the two things that we're showing folks as we're here at the BYO boot camp. We're actually going to be at the next BYO boot camp too, if you'd like to see this up close and in person. We're going to be in San Diego, and I think it's in February, but we'll know for sure. Pay attention to the dates, and thanks very much for your attention and for checking us out.